My name's Robin Rainbow Gate. I grew up in Chicago, a suburb of Chicago, and lived some time in England and in India, and then lived for like 22 years in Kentucky before coming here to Mexico, where I live in a small village near Tepoztlan. I would say that I'm a student. I'm a student of traditional medicine of Mexico and of China. My film work is that I'm an honorer of stories through the medium of video. I like to me it's an honor to hear people's stories and give them that gift of being heard deeply, and also it's a way of preserving the old ways, which I think is really important for future generations. So that's the work I do in film. So that's some about me. To me, compassion is having a sensitivity towards something which might, on the face of it, be offensive or disturbing, but to realize that even things like that are part of the whole, and so compassion would be to be able to cut through, or to not react automatically or impulsively from a place of resistance to things that aren't pleasant, but to know that they're part of the whole, and that the whole is basically good. I have known and know, and I've had so many experiences of people being kind with me, and I feel like I've received so much compassion in that the shadow parts of myself, which I'm very aware of and think others must be very aware of, but who knows, sometimes yes, sometimes no, that people have been kind to me even in the midst of maybe my messiness. Even one actual example would be in Mexico when I speak Spanish. I like to try to speak Spanish. I make a lot of mistakes, but I find that the people here, the Mexicans, almost completely are just so compassionate towards me. They're kind, they're not judgmental, they're helpful, they correct me, which doesn't come from an arrogant perspective, but just to help. So that would be an example of compassion. Well, really the first human being that comes to my mind is a Buddhist monk that I used to practice Buddhist meditation with when I lived in England, named Ajahn Sumedho. And the picture that came up in my mind of him was, he was always smiling and laughing. And one of the things that he was able to do in his teachings was speak about the difficult aspects of the human experience, because he, as a successful meditator and potentially enlightened person, quien sabe, I don't, whatever that actually means, but he had something. And part of what he had was the ability to talk about difficult aspects of life, because it was really clear that he had gone inside himself and looked at all of that stuff. But the way that he talked about it was always with laughter, but not laughing at, but just like it's just all this big funny thing. It's just a big funny show. And when I can go to him, or when I have or used to go to him with whatever grand suffering I had, and he could respond to me with smiling and laughter, that to me felt like incredible compassion. That's a hard one for me, because I don't perceive myself as being very compassionate. And I don't recall, I mean, honestly, as I live in the moment and don't remember many moments, right now, like doing these interviews today, this experience, talking about compassion, which I had no intention of being interviewed, because I felt like I have nothing to say about this, because I know nothing about it. I thought you know, but I can listen. But hearing what everyone had to say, it's like it's just kind of, my heart just kind of started to go like this. And so perhaps actually being part of this project is actually something that can help me, or is helping me in this moment to open to compassion very much. It's my intent. Sometimes I don't know if I'm making progress, but my intent, I want to be compassionate with others because I see myself, I see a lot of anger and judgment that I have towards a lot of things and a lot of people. But more than anything, I see my lack of compassion towards myself. And I believe that if I were to be able to find that and unblock and dislodge and flush out and whatever all those processes are, all that stuff that's between me and having compassion for myself, then I would be able to be compassionate for others. And what I believe is at the base of it is forgiveness. Forgiveness of others, things that have been done to me, and things that I've done to others. If everybody did what I just said I want to do, the world would be really different and, wow, healthy. Which doesn't mean that it wouldn't have negative dark shadow stuff, because it always will, because that's part of the whole. But somehow if we could all learn to look within and heal our wounds and forgive, and you know, it's like what Andrew was saying in the previous interview about like having tolerance for things that are intolerable, which doesn't mean what another interviewee said, which doesn't mean to pardon it. It doesn't mean to say, well, it's all right, you know, I'm just all love and it's not important, it's all okay. It doesn't mean that at all. But that somehow if all of us could do our inner work, you know, look within and heal our past stuff, so that we could not just be in the light, but be in some kind of healthy equilibrium with all of it, with the light and the dark, and how that manifests in different ways at every moment.